I have been procrastinating a lot with my languages, so let's make some content out of it. I have experienced something in February that I think a lot of language learners and a lot of goal setters experience, and that is January. You're full of motivation, you're working so hard on your goals, you just made New Year's resolutions, you're so successful, and then February, your motivation dies a little. So I want to talk a little bit about the strategies that I use to get back to normalcy, how I return to a routine that used to work. These tips are generally for most goals that you would have, but I'm going to specifically use language examples, and I'll also be using some of my personal experience from February and my February failures. Tip number 1, baby steps. It is very difficult to get back into a rhythm that you were into before, especially if it was a very serious routine. So the best thing you can do is just start off small. Now, theoretically, you were learning 50 words a day in January, but in February you learned nothing. Well, it'll be really difficult to do 50 again, so how about you do 10 words a day in March? Having these little successes is still something, and it's on the way to the bigger goal that you have, while at the same time you're not overwhelming yourself with too much to do and something you can't handle right now. Your brain has gotten used to not doing something, so doing a lot like you did before could be way too much. And our goal is not to burn you out, but to slowly return you to a routine you once had. Tip number 2 that I take very seriously is to not beat yourself up. For so many goals, we can, hate ourselves for failing in some period of time, but really it's not that serious, right? If we're talking about languages and this is your hobby, you do it for fun, okay, you're a little slower, okay, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. Maybe it could be higher stakes if you have to get a certain test score, otherwise you can't go to some school. Well, that's a different case. I'm talking about most of my viewers who I think are language learners, avid language learners who just enjoy the hobby. If you didn't listen to 6 hours of German movies this week, well, it's not that deep though. It's not that deep. Don't beat yourself up over something that should be fun. When I was like 10 or 11 and I would die in some video game, I would be so angry. I'm screaming, making horrifying noises because I'm just so frustrated. And my mom said, this is a game, it should be fun. If you're not having fun, why are you playing? And as I'm getting older, I realized that was exactly right. Languages are the same way. If you are not enjoying yourself, why are you doing it? For most people, most of my audience, it's for fun. So don't make it a chore. Don't hate yourself over it. Tip number 3 is to rethink your strategy. There's probably a reason you stopped your routine. There's probably a reason you failed in a certain month. I failed in February, so I need to analyze what was I doing that just didn't work for me. Survivor bias is a thing, and you shouldn't be analyzing your successful January. You should be analyzing your failure February. Why did you fail in February? What went wrong and what needs to change? For some people, maybe their January routine was too intense, so it looks like my January was so successful, but I cannot keep up with that success for long. Maybe you just didn't enjoy your routine, so when you're rethinking your strategy, maybe you should include things that you enjoy doing. Maybe your goal was way too focused on too much grammar or too much memorization, and you just weren't doing what you wanted with the language, which is why you stopped doing it. Maybe it's time to think about what you can modify in your schedule to make you want to return to the language. Tip number 4 is to just rip off that bandage, just do it. In goals like diet and exercise, there's always a little bit of a time delay. Sometimes you can't start exercising at this moment, you can't go to the gym at this moment, or you're not eating in this moment, you can't start your diet. But in the case of language learning, if you're thinking about the language learning, you can do it right now. So do it. You're using your native language right now, right? So use your target language. There's less, in my opinion, there's less of a legitimate reason why you would procrastinate in learning a language when you could be learning a language at any point at all. If you're listening to music, you could do foreign language music. If you are reading an article online, you could be reading an article in your target language. If you're playing a game, you could be playing a game in your target language. So just start doing that routine, that old routine, and it won't feel that strange to return to what you were doing before. Once you get out of a habit, it's really hard to go back. But in the case of language learning, you could go back right now. You can pause this video and go interact with your target language. My fifth tip is to allow your routine to evolve. So taking into account everything else I mentioned today, allowing that routine to change is necessary. We are humans and we want to do many different things. We don't want to just read grammar textbooks. We want to have fun with our target languages. So maybe that fun needs to be your routine. In my case, I was doing a lot of reading, a lot of listening practice, a lot of really good stuff in January, but February hit and my whole February has just been Pokemon. Then when that Pokemon was done, I did that Pokemon. And then when that Pokemon was done, I did that Pokemon. So my February has been just full of Pokemon and not that much languages. Well, good news for me, I can make my Pokemon that I've been obsessed with in February, I could just put it in my target language. I can change my Pokemon Go to Turkish. I can play that Pokemon game in German, because on the one hand, I don't want to stop the thing that I've been interested in for the past couple weeks in my current obsession. I don't want to end that, but I do want to return to learning languages. I want to make progress in my languages. I want to upkeep my languages. So by not being so strict with myself and allowing that routine to evolve, as long as it's in service of my long-term goals, that's fine. You don't have to do the exact same thing you were doing, and once you go into hiatus, I need to do exactly what I was doing before the hiatus. No, your routine can evolve a little, and that's really good because you're discovering what you enjoy to do. You are deriving some pleasure from the interacting with the language, and it's just fun. So this video ostensibly is for my audience, but honestly, I made this video for me to remind myself what I need to do to return to my routine. February has not been that good for languages. I failed more than half of my monthly goals in February after succeeding in most of them in January. So I need to get back on it, but I don't have to stop what I've been doing. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon, as I said. I don't have to stop that. I can incorporate that into the language learning and have a fun experience, and while still improving my languages. So that's what's going on with me and my languages. Hopefully, you can return to yours. I think what I'm experiencing in February is really common for a lot of language learners. You get so excited in January, you really want to make improvements, and then you just hit a wall in February. Maybe you find another current obsession, or you just lose motivation for those languages that you had in January because you're just so excited for your long-term goals. You're so excited to improve so much that you really push on them, and that fizzles out. If you've liked this video, please give it a like. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you in a hiatus? Has February been difficult for you and your languages? Subscribe if you want to see more from me. All of my socials will be linked in the description below. So thank you for watching today's video, and I will see you for another video very soon. Alright? じゃあまたね。